Oh, I don't pay for suits. My suits are on the house, or the house burns down.
Welcome back to the Red Right Hand Podcast, the show that covers each and every episode of the BBC hit show, The Peaky Blinders. I'm Curtis, and I'm taking over this show today. There's nobody else on this show. It's my show now. There never was anybody else. That was just me doing a bunch of voices.
Yeah, I'm here today too.
And what's your name?
Josh.
There we go. So, actually, on this episode, it's going to be a little different. We're kind of calling it a mini episode. I think that's what we're calling it, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what we're defining it as.
Minisode.
So, we're not really going to talk about any episodes of the show today. We're actually going to dive into some different topics. I mean, this is probably going to be something that we do in between seasons, wouldn't you think? I mean, we talked about that.
Yeah.
So, today we're actually going to talk about the real Peaky Blinders. Ooh, what could that be? How excited are you to talk about this today?
I'm pretty excited. Because we know the show is based on true events, but it's, the timeline is kind of skewed for, the TV show versus actual history. I know a lot of the guys are, there's different people that were in the gang than some of the people that are on the show, so... Yeah, it's always fun to learn the actual history behind some of this stuff. Well, I think a lot of times for me, when I watch these kind of shows, it just makes me more interested, in the actual history of it.
Right. I mean, the story, the main story doesn't have to be 100% true. We talked about it before, and you just said it too, all the historical stuff that they throw in there, the wars, the the Depression, different stuff like that they kind of tie into it, even some famous names of, real people. I mean, it just kind of makes it feel like you can relate to it. Oh, I know that person. Maybe not personally, but,
they
I know of that person, yeah.
In our world.
Yeah, so. Well, let's dive right on into it. So, the creator and director, Stephen Knight, actually... took a lot of inspiration for this show when he was making this show from his dad telling stories of, quote, incredibly well-dressed, incredibly powerful, unquote, gangsters that were active at the turn of the 20th century in England. But the difference is it wasn't all rags to riches like the TV show Peaky Blinders that we see, where they're kind of starting off just these bookmakers dealing with, horse racing, betting, different stuff like that, and kind of making more of an empire later on, or throughout the series, I guess you could say. But it was actually more of young working class gangsters who are just as violent as the TV show counterparts. But they were hardened by economic deprivation in industrial England in the beginning of the 20th century. One of the biggest differences in the show is the actual time that the show took place, which would be between the two world wars, World War I and World War II, so in the 20s and 30s, whereas the real Peaky Blinders actually... lived in I think around the 1890s is what I read, where most of it is 1890s to early 1900s. So basically, 1890s to World War I was their biggest active time period. The name Peaky Blinders, we've talked about that before. On the TV show, they've got the razor blades, under their hats. And so that's wouldn't you say that was a kind of one of the reasons why they called them that, right? In the show?
Yeah.
I understand the hat too has to do with it, but...
Yeah, and they're called peak caps, aren't they? That's the type of hat.
Yeah. Because it kind of comes to a peak.
Mm-hmm. And so, I assume that, but it's also too, I feel like at some point they talked about how they called them that because they would cut their enemies in the eyes, that they would cut their eyes
kind
out.
of blind them or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, actually, back then at that time in the 1890s, when the real Peaky Blinders were around, razor blades were actually considered a luxury item, And so the name was thought to actually come from the peak of their hats, like you were just saying, instead of, well, they got these razor blades under their hats, yada yada yada, whatever.
I wonder why razor blades are considered a luxury item.
I don't know. I couldn't really figure that out. I need to look more into
Like
that.
a pack of them is like crazy cheap right now.
Right.
Like why? I just can't think of them.
Right. Well, I mean, different time period. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't. I don't know. Resources. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not a historian.
Well, I'm trying to picture what everybody else is using. I guess everybody else is using like straight razors, but then I just don't know why straight razors are any more. Like any less valuable. But it seems like it's more substantial. There's more
Do some looking up
product
on
there.
that, man. Yeah. Do some looking up on that. We'll try to figure out what the deal is. But yeah, I mean, as cool as it is in the TV show where they have the razor blades in the hat and they're using it, that's not accurate to the real Peaky Blinders. It was never... No one ever said, "Oh yeah, they had razor blades in their hats." I mean, that wasn't how it was in real life. They were still as violent, as the TV show Peaky Blinders, but unfortunately, no razor blades hidden underneath their hats.
So they're more known for their dress rather than just the hat.
Right.
Yeah. About...
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of eyewitness reports into newspapers and different stuff like that at the time of these young men and their gang in different situations. And even one person was quoted describing a member of the gang as saying, quote, he took pride in his personal appearance and dressed the part with skill. He wore bell-bottom trousers, hobnailed boots, a colorful scarf, and a peaked hat with a elongated brim. His hair was prison cropped all over his head, except for a quiff in front, which was grown long and plastered down obliquely on his forehead. Unquote. Now, half of that I didn't even understand because this is just different time and different country, and so they use more fancy words. And
I think the hair was, it's coif.
Is it coif?
But I still don't know exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But anyway.
I like the scarf. The scarf is the sick move, the colorful scarf. I'm picturing like a rainbow scarf.
A rainbow? Would it be a rainbow, man?
Oh, just something like super bright, and then
look at me, man.
The rest of his clothes are, just he's probably wearing a really nice jacket. And...
Yeah. Okay, yeah. People even describe the gang member girlfriends as wearing lavish display of pearls and gaudy silk handkerchiefs draped over their shoulders.
Oh.
Ooh.
Why, she's one of those Peaky girls.
Yeah, so they could even get the girls, man. With those rainbow scarves.
With those rainbow scarves.
I think that was the thing that probably did it for them. So, they're okay. Oh my God, what is that around their neck?
I'm just picturing a bunch of really loud colored scarves. Like the rest of that they wear is probably like
gray and
more like neutral colors.
Right.
And I'm picturing a scarf of many colors.
The scarf of many colors, like Joseph in the scarf of many colors.
The amazing Technicolor scarf.
There you go. Yeah, we should make that into a play, man. Oh man. Well, these well-dressed young men, though, could not be taken lightly, for underneath their proper clothing were brutal men who commanded respect and fear from others, which just like Tommy Shelby. I mean, we talked about it in the very first episode. In the very first scene of the show, he's coming riding a horse down the street, people scattering left and right, and you obviously know, okay, there's something up. They fear this guy, maybe respect him, maybe they don't even know him. Who knows,
But he looks like an important guy.
But he looks like an important person.
He looks like somebody who makes
riding
business.
a horse, man. Yeah. So, one witness was quoted saying, quote, "No matter what part of the city one walks, gangs of Peaky Blinders are to be seen, who oftentimes think nothing of grossly insulting passers-by, be it man, woman, or child," unquote. I mean, that's...
Oi,
look,
what we
man.
got here? A baby!
Right? I mean, like, you're so low down that you're going to do that to a baby? I mean, come on, man. Baby can't even come back,
I'm
man.
just picturing a bunch of grown men, like, talking smack and some, like, 5-year-old kid walking by.
Right. You're like, what are you going to do about it? You know, you can't do anything about it, man. Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't see that on the Peaky Blinders, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever really see him talking to... Maybe besides Finn, I don't think he's ever really... Thomas has ever really talked to another child on the show.
No. No.
He's just not really child-friendly. At least not throwing insults at them. He didn't even throw insults at Finn. Or even to another woman. I mean, like... Yeah, the only person they really talk to would just be like another guy. Somebody in the gang or somebody disrespecting the gang or whatever. Anyway. Violence, as mentioned before, was not beneath them at all. It was reported that a constable's death was a result of a dealing with several Peaky Blinders. So the story goes that several members of the gang were approached by the police after they had been, quote, drinking all day and fighting all night, unquote. I love that quote a lot, by the way.
Drinking all day and fighting all night.
When one of the members, known as William Coleraine, I hope I said his name right, please don't come back to haunt me, was arrested by police. His friends from the gang quickly rushed to his aid, and it is said that a young member named George, check out this name, Cloggy Williams, threw a brick with such force that it struck the constable in the head, fracturing his skull in 2 places, which led to his death in the next morning. Now, George Cloggy Williams was sentenced to life in prison on manslaughter charges.
Cloggy Williams.
Like, where do you come up with that? I mean, that's what I wanted to ask you is, like, what? I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that nickname.
This is George, but round here is known as Cloggy Williams.
Yeah, I mean, does he clog? I mean,
don't know what that means.
Is that his thing or what?
He's gonna... I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, man. So anyway, George Cloggy Williams is sentenced to life in prison on manslaughter charges. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier was this is actually the real Peaky Blinders and the TV Peaky Blinders actually share the similarity of they are both in Small Heath, Birmingham. They are actually the real life Peaky Blinders. At one point, were quoted with the name the Small Heath Peaky Blinders by one of the local papers. The Birmingham Daily Post, which is one of those papers, printed in their papers after the sentencing of George Cloggy Williams. God, that it should be a warning for any rowdy person in Birmingham. Speaking of his sentence. Which, again, I think it'd be more of a warning of, don't have a nickname like Cloggy Williams, people.
Yeah.
Don't let your friends give you that nickname.
Friends don't call friends Cloggy Williams.
Right, exactly. So, obviously, there's more pushback than we would see in the TV show. From the newspaper, from the police. You know, in the TV show, it seems like, hey, this is Thomas Shelby, this is his family, this is the Shelby family, and everybody else in the show, everybody else in the world is living in their world, they're ruling it. You do what they say, you get out of their way, yada, yada, yada. Whereas, in reality, they don't really have, command over the police, or sway over the police like Tommy Shelby does. They don't have any say in the press. I don't know if Tommy does or not. They don't really ever have... Well, they do. Well, when they're burning the... Remember, I think it was episode 2 or 3, when they're burning the King's picture.
Yeah.
He brought down the newspaper man. He was giving him some stuff to write about at the time.
But he just placed a call to tell this guy a story.
Right, and I'm not saying that he owns the paper then or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not all magic like Tommy Shelby's got it going on, where he owns the police. He doesn't have to worry about that, and he's not really getting any bad news or bad publicity from like a newspaper or local newspaper, like the real Peaky Blinders are. They got police on their back all the time, and they've got the, Daily Post here writing against them and trying to bring them down.
Yeah.
So, these very bold young men are throwing all caution to the wind. I mean, they don't, whatever. I don't care. Police can come after me. We'll just throw a brick at your head.
Yeah.
One of my very poorly named friends will throw a brick at your head and kill you. How would you like to be killed, though, by a Cloggy Williams?
One of my friends will clog you with this.
Maybe that's where he got the name, man. He clogged him so good. He's Cloggy Williams, man.
And I'm sure it's like slang. I don't know.
It's got to be. But, I mean, the first thing in my head was, again, like, clogging. Like, yeah, exactly. Like Irish dancing is like, God, I hope not. But, I mean, whatever. It's not like back then, that'd be kind of a...
Aren't clogs Dutch?
Is it Dutch? I thought it was Irish.
The clogs are the giant wooden...
Yeah, but like clogging is like dancing, though, isn't it?
No, that's step dance.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
No, the clogging, they've
well,
got
maybe that's why they
giant
call
wooden
okay.
shoes.
Okay, maybe that's why he called him that, though, because he's got giant wooden shoes.
I think you do.
That's all he can afford.
Do a scuttle like that.
So, one example from the spring of 1980, when a group of young men from the gang led by Thomas Mucklow came across a young man at a bar ordering, check this out, non-alcoholic beer. Can you believe that?
That's a tough move.
Come on, dude.
You walk into the bar and then you order a...
Give me some ginger ale, whatever, man.
What's the big one here that's the non-alcoholic?
I don't know.
I can't remember the name of it.
So anyway, he orders a non-alcoholic beer. So...
O'Doul's.
O'Doul's?
I think it's O'Doul's.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll say he goes into a bar and he orders an O'Doul's. So what do the Peaky Blinders proceed to do? Let me tell you. They let him know what they thought of him and his non-alcoholic beer by patting him on the back and cheering loudly. That's right. One witness described the scene saying, quote, the young man was hoisted onto the shoulders of the gang members and carried out into the street where a parade was soon started. Everybody had a good day, unquote. Just kidding, they brutally murdered him.
Oh, I was like, are the Peaky Blinders the first straight edge gang?
Right.
They're like, wow, you're blowing my mind.
That look on your face, man, when I said that, I was like, I got him. Hook, line, and sinker, man. No, but they actually, they didn't murder him. They brutally beat him and cut him to the point where the young man spent 3 weeks in the hospital and had to go and undergo a major cranial surgery where the surgeons had to drill into his head. So, in the words of the narrator of the Dukes of Hazzard, them Peaky boys are at it again.
Did this happen before or after the parade?
Which part?
The beating.
No. Nah, there was no parade.
Oh, there was no parade. Okay.
Did you really think there was a parade?
Maybe.
Oh, I mean, they might have. They just wasn't reported on.
I mean, it's a weird time. Like,
ticker tape everywhere. Like, how convinced were you, though, when I said all that? On a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, like, that is so true.
a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, I was going to say about 7 or 8.
Sometimes, like, these stories, though, like, especially with, like, the old gangs and stuff. I know this is, like, in the UK, but, like, especially when it gets to America, sometimes the stories just take a weird turn. And it's like, and then they all decided that they were best friends. And
hip, hip, hooray!
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't really know what's going to happen.
No, that's not how it went down.
Right,
not
well,
this time, at least. Maybe there's, like, some untold stories, and they're like, hey, look, like, guys from Peaky Blinders, like, the real Peaky Blinders were like, look, man, we're not so bad. You just focus on all the bad stories, you know? We help out the poor. You know, we help old ladies across the street. You didn't report about that one, you know?
Yeah.
I highly doubt it, but,
Probably
you know.
not.
I mean, if you're making fun of, or you're not making fun of, but, like, grossly attacking men, women, and children of all ages, then yeah, you're probably not helping an old lady across the street.
Yeah.
So, but in the TV show, there was no parades. We watch Thomas Shelby take his family from small-time bookmakers to having their hands in all sort of big business. This was not the case for the real Peaky Blinders.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not all glitz and glamour. Hey, we're gonna have this huge.
They didn't become big businessmen?
No. Not even close, man.
Oh.
See, these guys were more like, petty theft criminals. Besides the violence, which we just talked about.
We covered that.
Which they did have that part. I mean, they're good on that part. So, they're described earlier. Excuse me, that's what we were talking about. The violence described earlier of the Peaky Blinders criminal mischief. They're more like I said, petty theft criminals. So there's actually this famous mugshot that if you go look on Google, you go into Google and you type in the real Peaky Blinders and you go to images, probably all of the photos are going to pop up are these 4 mugshots in a row, side by side. And these 4 guys are Harry Fowler, Ernest Bayless, Stephen McKickey, Thomas Gilbert. And if you look at this photo, and you can read cursive, because it's pretty, hardcore cursive, some of the letters didn't even look like... I mean, I can read cursive.
It makes me think of when we used to get, a birthday card from... Granny, and her cursive was so
Well, I was gonna ask you, can you read it? Because I can't read it at all.
I can read it, but it's it takes a trained eye.
I'm just I don't know how. I'm not disrespecting her, but it looked like chicken scratch.
No
man,
shit. Yeah, well, yeah, and everybody has their own my notes are so bad. My own personal notes, they're pretty rough, but. I can still read them,
right.
Other people can't, but...
Well, and this cursive's not as bad. I mean, obviously, people listening don't know how bad
I remember when I was a kid,
not
being able to, hardly read it at all, though.
Well, it just looked like... you get the first letter, and then everything else is just kind of little squiggles. To me, that's how it was. But anyway, if you're looking at this picture, and you can read... If you're looking at the mugshot, and you can read cursive, you get past, the height, weight, birth date, yada, yada, yada... You can see the crimes that these 4 have committed, and they're pretty lame compared to the TV show Shelby family crimes that are committed in every episode. So the first 2, Harry and Ernest, are actually bike theft. And again, I don't know, man. I think of this crime, and I don't think of... obviously it's not bicycles from, our period. I'm thinking of, the old school 1800s bicycles. They're, the huge front wheel and then, the tiny back wheel. Yeah. And now I'm thinking to myself, how do you... How do you steal that? Because, you got to climb up. Yeah, seriously, man. You got to... Have you ever seen somebody try to, climb those things to get on? I don't know how you ride that. I really don't even know how you ride one of those. This looks so uncomfortable. But anyway, dumb bike theft. I don't know if
those
that happened.
are the bicycles. They're the ones with the big front wheel and the tiny back wheel.
That's what I'm saying.
Those are the ones that they used in the 1890s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's gotta be like that.
That was the 4th version of the bicycle, the modern bicycle.
Well, I'd like to know what the first 3 were, because I thought that was one of the first ones.
They look similar. They got away from the 2. The second design had 2 wheels of basically the same size, and then they went back the other way. They're no. What about 1 giant wheel and 1 tiny wheel?
Well, try something you haven't done yet, I guess, until you get it right.
The other one looks like a crossbow on wheels. The first one.
Let me see.
The first bicycle.
Which one's that? Oh. What the heck? It does. That's weird looking. Oh, that's so weird. Yeah, the one from 1885, that looks like ours now. Just, I mean, handlebars are a little different.
Yeah.
Well, I guess even like the 1890s. But yeah, the one from 1870s, that's the one I'm thinking of with the big wheel.
I was picturing from like the TV shows time period, so I was like, no, it's definitely more like flattened out.
But like, look at that picture to the left there of the guy
Yeah,
riding it. I'm
yeah.
like, that looks so uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, that'd be kind of like riding a bicycle now, but like not sitting on the, like, you ever like remember when you were kids riding bicycles, not sitting on the thing, you get up and kind of pedal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like kind of uncomfortable to me. Anyway, Stephen McKickey was charged with shop breaking, and we're getting a little bit better here. It's getting a little better. Okay, it's obviously not bike theft, and it's not, but it's obviously not anything that Tommy Shelby's. I mean, they're not up to Tommy Shelby's level yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, and
They're not chucking guys in the river.
Right, exactly. Last but not least, Thomas Gilbert was charged with acting under false pretenses. Whatever that meant.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if he was saying, like, he was lying about who he was and, like, maybe he's scamming people. That's kind of what I was thinking. Is maybe, like, he's, I'm some salesman or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it was illegal.
That's a weird charge.
But at the same time, still not up to the Shelby family standards.
No.
So this next part, though, is a little interesting to me. So the first guy in the mugshot, Harry Fowler, like the Shelby brothers, actually served in World War One, and he actually also witnessed horrible events, much like being buried alive by mortar bombardment. And later, he emerged from his dirt grave with serious injuries. So he did survive. But I'm sure that's probably, pretty traumatic to be buried alive. And not even by somebody else. I mean, like, not somebody with a shovel, stepbrothers burying you. Like
a massive amount of dirt being thrown on you, like,
right,
all at
exactly.
one time.
I mean, that's like, God, that's so crazy. So, but he did survive that. He would actually go on to make a living selling postcards with a picture of a female nurse on it. And I'll give you one guess who the female nurse was.
Marilyn Monroe. No, this is way too early for that.
Are you kidding me? She wouldn't even have thought yet. Are you kidding me? This is like right in your front of your face, man. Come on.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
No, man. And it couldn't be J. Edgar Hoover either. I know he'd like to dress up, but but it's kind of on the lines of J. Edgar Hoover dressing up in dresses.
I have no idea.
It was Harry Fowler himself.
No.
Yes, it was, man.
Is this true?
Yes, this is true, man.
He got buried alive, and then after he survived.
With serious injuries, and that's the thing about it. He had to live with those serious injuries, so he probably couldn't get work like a normal person.
Yeah. So he made postcards with a picture of a nurse on it, but the nurse was him.
Yes. Now, I didn't say if it was like... I just imagine... I'm just assuming that it's probably not postcards that you would find from like Hallmark or anything like that. It's probably... I mean, it's a female nurse, and he had to dress up as a nurse.
Where's he selling these?
I'm thinking he's selling them in an overcoat on the street, and they're probably like... They may be X-rated. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway... So, with that in mind, I'd like to say that I could see it now at the beginning of the next season.
Oh, God.
At the very beginning of the first episode, we see Arthur meeting with Tommy in a secret meeting place, maybe even in the Garrison pub. He walks in, and there's Tommy with a camera and a nurse's outfit. And he goes on to tell Arthur... It's very important that he does this for the family. Okay, it's for the family, all right? We've run on hard times, Arthur. It's the Depression, it's the 30s, and we need money. And with some of that magical Tommy persuasion that we see in the first season and throughout the rest of the seasons with Arthur, Arthur breaks down and reluctantly does it. Next thing you know, the show is canceled before the rest of the episode airs. So, Lord, I hope, please, don't ever do that, Stephen Knights, because that would just be, like, awful. I mean, could you even imagine? I mean, I would think it'd be like, oh, psych, you were actually going to do it. It's a practical joke on you, Arthur.
It's their next big, their big business push.
That's what I was thinking.
They got to break into the world of postcards.
That's... Oh, Lord. Could you even imagine, man? I mean, you'd have to think, like, okay, we have officially run out of ideas for this show. You know? But we still have this one idea. You know, it's like, they'd be like, oh, it's our backup plan.
Or they just decided to pull something from history because that unfortunately actually happened.
Hey, look. I'm sure there are weirder things that have happened in this world
Oh, for sure.
than Harry Fowler dressing up as a female nurse, taking his own picture, putting it on a postcard, and selling it to random people. Maybe even Hallmark. Maybe he cut a deal with Hallmark. If Hallmark was even a thing back then.
He went on to create Hallmark.
He went on to create Hallmark. Harry Hallmark Fowler. Anyway, so with that out of mind, because I want to get far away from that thought. Again, we were talking, at the beginning of this episode and in other episodes before about the history from real life that they do put into the show. And I was wondering, did you actually know that Billy Kimber was an actual person?
I did know that Billy Kimber was an actual person.
So in the 1920s, after World War I, the Peaky Blinders' reign of terror was all but over in Birmingham. So changing of guards when World War I ended, Harry Fowler, he had to go do his thing. Lord knows what everybody else ended up doing. But Birmingham was kind of up for grabs as the Peaky Blinders were weakening. So the place was actually taken over by a rival gang named the Birmingham Boys. Led by Billy Kimber. And he was actually described as, quote, very intelligent man with a fighting ability, a magnetic personality, and a shrewd awareness of the importance of an alliance with London, unquote. Compare that to the TV show Billy Kimber. What do you think? Is that accurate or not? They forgot to put in their sleazy, I think.
Yeah, well, I think what they were trying to do with Billy Kimber, especially when they first introduced him, was, I don't know, after I had seen that Kimber, was the leader of the Birmingham Boys, it just made me think, like, how they almost kind of modeled the character of Tommy in some ways, like, after that. And how he says, there's that scene between the two of them in the garrison where he says that, Tommy says he admires Kimber because he started with nothing, and built up to a legitimate business.
Right.
So I think the show is definitely kind of drawing some parallels between actual Billy Kimber and Tommy Shelby.
Right.
But yeah, show Kimber is definitely a totally different guy. It seems like maybe he was more concerned with, maybe he was more like Tommy in the beginning, but I think as his influence grew and his power and his wealth, it all just kind of, like, he just kind of stopped caring about almost the business side of things. He left all that to his accountant, and he was only worried about, the things that his wealth could buy him.
Right, yeah. Did they talked about, or they kind of hinted at Charles Sabini, right? I think they did in the last episode.
In the show? Yeah, in the last episode, they said, well, the only thing he said was, we're the third largest.
Right, yeah.
They're like the third largest legal
Betting.
trackside betting.
Yeah.
He said the only two that are above us are the Solomons and the Sabinis.
So Charles Sabini actually was a real person also. There's not much on him.
Was it at that time? Like, was it 1890s or was it 1920s?
Actually, what happened was, so Billy Kimber and his gang takes over in the 20s, and then when the 30s come around, Charles Sabini takes over, and Charles Sabini and his gang take over the Birmingham from the Birmingham boys.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you were talking about influences on some of the characters or whatever. This quote that I saw from Stephen Knight about when he was talking about writing the Peaky Blinders and kind of coming up with the idea, he said, quote, just that image of smoke, booze, and these immaculately dressed men in this slum in Birmingham. I thought, that's the mythology, that's the story, and that's the first image I started to work with, unquote. So he's talking about, again, going back to at the beginning of this episode where it's saying he took a lot of his inspiration for this show from his dad's stories of when his dad was a kid running around and seeing all these gangs growing up and all that different stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. But all in all, I think we can both agree that the TV show Peaky Blinders and the real life Peaky Blinders are pretty different. There are some few similarities. Again, the violence. I mean, obviously, but there's a lot of differences between the two. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but and like plot wise for the show, I feel like it almost makes more sense to be where it is. Like I like that they've taken this story and put it in the middle, like instead of before the First World War, putting it in the middle of two world wars, because I think we're going to start to see, the lead up to World War II in this last season.
Well, and that's what they talked about. They've talked about wanting to possibly end it at like the first air raid sirens in Britain for World War II. So kind of being like, like you said, between the two wars of, well, he's, Tommy fought in the first one and then having to go through his son, volunteering and going through the war also. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's be pretty cool, I think. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how they do it. But we still got several seasons to go in this podcast before we ever get to that. So there's still a lot to find out. But yeah, that's all I have. All my information, just kind of cite my sources here. All my information that I got on this episode came off of the Smithsonian Magazine website. Ooh. Thank you so much, Smithsonian. If you want to sponsor us, hit us up, man. If you don't, that's okay. Whatever, it's your choice, man. Ball's in your court. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoy this mini episode, leave us a review, a like, subscribe, whatever you do on these podcast stuff. And we'll see you in this next episode.
See you.